Introduction into Stotles. I hope a lot of you know who we are. I imagine a lot of you are using our free platform, but just wanted to introduce ourselves a little bit here. So Stotles was started about 5 years ago by our co-founders who all had different experiences selling to government. And they quickly realized how difficult of a task that can be, how difficult the system can be, and thought that there wasn't a good platform out there to really help and enable commercial teams to improve their public sector pipeline and revenue generation. As you'll see on the screen, we work with lots of large enterprise-sized companies, a lot within the technical and software space. But as I said earlier, we really do cover the breadth of the public sector. We work with folks in all different verticals and with teams of all different sizes, from literally one person up to hundreds. We are a VC-backed startup. So we had our Series A round of funding just last year. And that's really enabled us to kind of reinvest in the product and in our people. One really real outcome of that investment was our ability to really just grow our product and to add on 2 additional parts to our core offering. So if any of you were around with us, 3-4 years ago when we first launched, you might be familiar with this find tenders and build pipeline parts here in the center of this page. That is what we started with somewhat of a tender tracker. We've grown massively since then. And most recently, we've added on our planning or creating strategy part and our creating or winning bids part as well. So these 4 parts make up the Stotles platform and really represent this end-to-end enablement platform for commercial teams who sell into the public sector. Lovely. Jumping right in today with a high-level agenda and just some concrete takeaways that I hope everyone gets from this session. I'm always a fan of walking away from webinars with concrete things that I've learned. So I just wanted to highlight these at the beginning of the session so that we're all on the same page and are kind of aware of what we hope the takeaways are. So we're going to focus on 3 main things that do kind of relate back to the parts of Stotles we just saw. The first one is going to be how to create your go-to-government strategy. So this is going to be around sizing your market, finding the right buyers, creating a target account list, and at the end of the day, the ability to reach out to the right people at the right time to win more bids. We'll then look at actioning those insights. So how are you actually building pipeline earlier in the process? How are you finding those early buying signals to engage government buyers before tenders actually come to market? How are you getting ahead of your competitors and building that qualified pipeline 6, 12, 18 months in advance, not just waiting for opportunities to land in your lap? And then finally, we're going to look at how to use AI to supercharge or power your bid writing. So how AI can help you qualify bids quicker, coordinate with your team and collaborate better, and really create that first draft proposal in a fraction of the time that it would typically take, or it might have taken historically. So 3 key takeaways I hope we all get from today's session. We'll break each one down a little bit deeper in just a moment. So before we do get started and before I show you a little bit more of the platform and show you how we're going to address those 3 points, I would love to learn a little bit about yourselves. It's always really nice to get a feel for who's in the room. So you might have seen this before. We are using a little system called Slido, and we're just going to ask you 2 questions. It'll be really quick. You don't have to download anything or create an account. All you have to do is scan that QR code in the top left-hand corner of the screen and just start answering this question. So the first question or poll is really just about your level of public sector experience. It's really helpful to understand your come from state. So are you a seasoned public sector professional? Is this what you do every day, day in, day out? Have you dipped your toes in a little bit? You've maybe won a couple of contracts. Have you never sold to government before and this is all brand new for you? Where are you sitting kind of within this scale? We'll let a few more folks answer here. Thank you for all of the ones who have done so far. It looks like at the minute, this is moving, but it still looks like the majority of folks are seasoned public sector professionals, which is great. So you're repeatedly winning contracts, you presumably have some sort of strategy or process in place. So hopefully we'll look at today how you can improve upon that or revise that coming into the new year. All right, we'll just wait for a couple more seconds here. Lovely. So it looks like we've got a good mix, just about half and half majority there around seasoned professionals and some folks who have dipped their toes in. There are a few who are brand new as well. So hopefully we'll be able to enable you to hit the ground running after today's session. All right, one more question here. Don't put your phones away just yet. This is the last one. Asking what emoji best describes your knowledge of Stotles. So really just keen to hear again what you know about Stotles so far. Have you used us before? Are you completely brand new? Anything to help kind of describe your knowledge of Stotles would be really great. We've got some people typing here. One person's already confused, so hopefully we'll clear some things up for you a little bit. Some folks are a little bit neutral, a little bit confused. Okay, lots of clarifications to be done today. Which is great. Hopefully this will all be kind of brand new for you, and hopefully you'll all learn a lot. Brand new, wonderful, new, great. Okay. New, all newbies. This is wonderful. Okay, we've got one more person typing and then we will move on. A little bit new. Okay, wonderful. That's all really, really great. Thank you all for participating. Throughout the session, the Slido will remain open, and that's how we're going to answer questions at the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions throughout, please pop them into the Q&A box in that Slido, and I'll get to them at the end. Lovely. That's all really helpful. Really appreciate everyone's participation there. We're now going to move into the bulk and kind of the meat of this webinar. So starting with that first agenda point around creating your go-to-government strategy, starting at the very beginning of your journey where you're trying to figure out who to reach out to at what time with what messaging. And there's a few different ways to do this in the platform. So today we're going to focus on 3 key things when creating your go-to-government strategy. At the very beginning, we're going to look at sizing your total addressable market. So who's actually out there buying what you're selling, right? What have folks spent historically? Which areas should you maybe be focusing on, whether that's geographical or by buyer type or whatever else? Who is your total addressable market? What potential is there for you in the public sector? Moving on, we're going to look at getting a little bit more pointed and define your actual target accounts and territories. So in the next 6 months, in the next year, what are your target accounts? Who are you going after? And then we're going to flip a little bit and look at your routes to market. So you've identified your target accounts. How are you actually going to meet those buyers where they are in their buying journey and ensure that you align with their preferred routes to market? So we are going to jump right in. I appreciate a lot of this is probably brand new to folks. So this is Stotles. This is our home page here. And this is where you land when you first enter the platform. And this is how we can navigate to all of those 4 different parts of the platform. For this section, we are going to start with analyzing the market to help us create our go-to-government strategy. So I'm just going to click on this handy dandy little button at the top of my screen. And this is going to pull us through to our notices area. Now, notices is all of your procurement data within the platform. So this could be historically awarded tenders, this could be open or live tenders, and we can use all of this data in different ways. To start with sizing your market, we are going to look at upcoming contract expiries. And I've just created a view prior to this session, highlighting contracts that are due to expire within the next 12 months. So we're coming up to a new calendar year here. We're going to be looking at 2026 specifically, right? I'm a salesperson. Who do I want to focus on in 2026? Where is my target market? Where does it lie? Now, you might notice on the left side of my screen, we have a signal score. This is really important, and this is how we set the relevancy within Stotles. So we use a series of keywords to ensure that the notices that you are being shown and the notices that are going into your reports are relevant and are relevant to you. In this example, I have created a just a test account with a relatively generic software provider. So I've got some keywords in here around cybersecurity, cloud optimization, EPRs, security operations, et cetera. So this is who we're pretending to be for the purposes of today. The data that comes up and the notices that appear will match these signal settings and will match these keywords. Each individual customer will customize this to ensure just that relevancy within the platform. All right. So popping back to our notices area here, we have a list of, we can see relevant tenders based on my keywords, and we know that they're going to expire within the next 12 months or within 2026. And the first thing I'd want to do in this instance is use our analyze area here to really size my market. So right off the bat, I'm able to see that within central government, there's over 68 million pounds worth of potential contracts for me to go after. So these are things that are expiring in 2026, they're likely to renew, and they match my keywords. So right off the bat, I have that high level number. I know what my market looks like. I know what the potential is out there for me to go after. Getting a little bit more specific than that and looking at, that's great, there's all of this potential in the central government market. Where am I going to start, right? Who am I actually going to start going after? So what I've done is I've just organized this list of buyers by notice count. So which buyers have the largest amount of notices coming up for renewal in 2026. Here we have our list of our top 10. I could look at my top 20, 50, et cetera. But we're just going to keep it short and simple today. So here we have our top 10 buyers. I'm going to click, I'm going to save, and right there immediately, I have a target account list that I can save these buyers to. So now I know that these buyers are retendering for a service that I can provide within the next 12 months. So it's the right people to go after, and it's the right time to go after them. I'm saving them to my target account list. And then I can use this list throughout the platform to really just ensure that I am looking at the right folks and that I'm focusing on the right types of buyers. All right. So we've looked at sizing our market. I understand what's out there, the potential revenue. I understand who my top buyers are. I've created that target account list. Now I'm going to take a quick look at those routes to market. So there's lots of different ways that public sector buyers are going to be procuring. That changes by the buyer, that changes with time. And one of the most popular ways is going to be frameworks. It's a really, really popular route to market. Because of that, it's really imperative that suppliers are on the right frameworks to meet their buyers where they are. So coming over to our framework section here, I'm going to pull through that list that we just built and quickly be able to see which frameworks my target accounts are on, right? So I'm filtering here by my target accounts. It's that list that we just built together. And this is going to show me all of the frameworks that my target accounts are on, right? So here are ones that I potentially could apply for. I can see if they're live, if they're expired. I can look at the next iterations of them as well. Now, clicking into one of these as an example, this is an AI framework, so really relevant to the keywords that I've put in around software and AI and adoption. And I'm able to see all the buyers on this framework and specifically those that I have saved as my target accounts. So all of the ones with these little flags here are my target accounts. That's great. Now, for example, DWP is here. Maybe there's someone I want to go after. I'm going to click through to their profile. So I know that they're on this AI framework, but what are the routes to market? What are their ways of procuring? Have they done in the past? What else should I be looking out for? This is where AI comes into the platform in one instance. So we have this AI chatbot where I can come in and I can ask it questions about this specific buyer. So DWP is someone I want to go after, and I want to understand what other procurement methods they've used in the past to make sure that I'm set up for success and I know how to engage this buyer. So I know they're on that AI framework that we just looked at, and now this is telling me some of the other ways that they have procured as well. So for some previous contracts, they've been on a different CCS framework, they've done a bundled procurement approach, They've done a competitive procedure, et cetera, et cetera. So now I have all of this knowledge and all of this information around how this specific buyer procures. All right. That was a little bit of a whirlwind. If there are any questions, as I said, please refer back to that Slido and pop those in there, and we can answer any of those at the end. If I just pop back to our slides here, so looking at that first agenda item, that first takeaway that we wanted you all to walk away with, we were looking at creating your go-to-government strategy. So what we've just seen is the ability to use historical procurement data to size your total addressable market. What's the potential out there? We've seen how we can define your territories and target accounts by looking at who's going to be spending the most on your types of products or services within the next year or other specified time frame. And then we've taken a look at how to understand your buyer's routes to market. So which frameworks we should be on, and how your individual target accounts have procured in the past and what they're likely to procure with in the future. So hopefully that gave you kind of an indication and understanding of how to size your market and really plan ahead and strategize for the next quarter, for the next year, or even 5 years in advance. All right. Moving on to our second point here is around building pipeline. And this is something that we're really, really passionate about at Stotles. We talk about this all day, every day. And we're going to give you some real ways to use the platform to build pipeline proactively. So before we dive into the platform and the various ways that we can proactively build pipeline, want to flash up this screen. So if you've talked to anyone at Stotles before, you might be aware of this. This is one of our main value propositions. And the idea is public procurement or selling to government, especially in the UK, is very difficult. We know that if you're going in cold and you're just applying to tenders reactively, oftentimes win rates are quite low. So during a study we did of our customers, it was about 4%. You're spending all that time writing a bid, and it doesn't win. We know that's frustrating, and we know that's essentially time wasted. On the flip side of that, there are ways to get around that. There are concrete ways for you to really massively or drastically improve and increase your win rates. And that is around pre-engaging, building relationships, and qualifying your pipeline ahead of time. So we're encouraging our customers to find early buying signals, engage buyers, and build those relationships before tenders come to market. We've taken a look at how we can create strategy and understand where buyers might be spending. And now we're going to move on to actually building pipeline. So concrete ways to find opportunities and create that qualified pipeline for yourselves and your sales team. Within the platform, there's a few different ways to do that. So today we're going to take a look at 3 key ways to proactively build pipeline and get ahead of tenders, so that when tenders do come to market, you're in a better position to win them. You've ideally engaged the buyer, or you might have gotten ahead of your competitors in that instance. So there's 3 main ways to do this. The first is looking at upcoming contract expiries and previous awards, especially in the software space or any space where buyers are likely to renew for a similar type of service. This is a really, really powerful way to stay on top of things and to understand what's coming down or what's coming to market in the future. The next piece is strategic documents. This is a little bit more high level and looking at a different data type around buyer documents, which we'll get into. And the final piece is early stage notices. So this is going to be even more prevalent now after the Procurement Act went into effect earlier this year, with more and more buyers posting these early stage notices to help you really get ahead of tenders. So popping back into our platform here, we will once again start on our home page and look instead now at actually building pipeline. So I'm going to click into our second part around finding expiring contracts. And this is going to take us directly to, again, our notices page where the bulk of your procurement data is stored. So we are currently looking at upcoming contract expiries that are going to expire at any point in the future. I can again filter this down to be more specific. So I could, for example, use that target account list that I've already built and look at only upcoming contract expiries for my target accounts. I can customize my keywords and make sure that the types of services that I'm selling are relevant and are popping up. So here are my filters. I'm quite happy with that. And then the next thing I'm going to do is just sort these notices by relevancy. So the ones right at the top are the most relevant, a signal score of 3, and they're most likely to resonate with myself and my team. Here we have a list, and this is where we can start actually saving concrete opportunities. So we can scroll down, we'll see there's lots of opportunities. I can either save them right over here on the left, that's just a quick save, and then I can refer back to it, or I can click on an opportunity itself and find out a little bit more about it. So we have a nice description, we can understand who the buyer is, who the current supplier is, what that route to market might be. This is G-Cloud 14 framework. I'm sure many of you are aware of it, very, very popular. We've actually, the G-Cloud 15 next iteration has just come live a couple of weeks ago, which we've actually written a report on as well. So that's all very exciting. So we can understand who the buyer is, what the route to market is, what the scope of this award or contract is. And if it's something that I think is relevant, I think I might want to go after, I am going to save this as an opportunity to refer back to. So that is one way to start building out your pipeline using the early buying signal of upcoming contract expiries. Now, that's great. That's really, really helpful. Sometimes, the opportunities you want to go after might not be opportunities that typically renew, right? It could be a greenfield opportunity if you're in facilities management or construction, or even if you have a type of product or service that's a little bit newer to the market. So we do still have ways for you to uncover those early buying signals. And that is going to be using document data instead of procurement data. Now, document data is something that's quite unique to Stotles. We pull through things like strategy documents, annual reports, budget documents, meeting minutes, any news that your buyers might be posting. We pull it into the platform and we overlay your keywords so that all of the relevant documents are going to be surfaced to you. And you can either use them as an early buying signal or use them in your discussions with buyers. So here I have my keywords overlaid to all of these documents. I'm going to focus on strategy documents for the time being. There are still thousands of strategy documents out there. So I'm going to narrow this down a little bit more by looking at my target accounts. So I want to see if anyone's been talking about anything that I provide at my target accounts. So here we go. I have my target accounts, and here are going to be all of the documents that mention any of my keywords. So if I don't know, choose this second one here for Barnsley Metropolitan Council, the document will pop up in the platform and it's automatically going to navigate to anywhere where any of my keywords have been mentioned. So in this instance, it's all about artificial intelligence and AI. I can pop to any of these different areas and I can just quickly see where AI or artificial intelligence might have been mentioned. In this example, we can see that one of their initiatives is around, or one of their actions is around supporting AI and tech adoption across logistics, manufacturing, and the wider business space, right? So that's a really great early buying signal for me. I know AI is a priority for them. I know that they're looking to explore further adoption of AI within the next 5-year period. This is a report from 2025 to 2030. So right off the bat, this is someone I can reach out to, and I can reach out to them with a very concrete idea of what I'm going to say, right? I read your report. I know this is a priority for you. How can we help? So another early buying signal, one that might be a little bit more strategic, and really just helps you kind of stand out from the crowd and get in and have those conversations earlier. All right. So we've looked at upcoming contract expiries as a way to get ahead or get insight into renewing contracts, things like software licenses that do typically renew. We've looked at documents as a way to be more strategic with your pipeline generation and to look for opportunities that might be greenfield or might be brand new to the market. So that's going to be two key ways that our customers use the platform and use the data to build pipeline. The last way is going to be back within our notices section and is going to be typically a little bit closer to the time of when you would actually bid on a tender. And that is going to be pre-tender notices or PINs. And we're back in our notices area and we have a different view here for open and upcoming tenders. So these are ones typically that are 6 months out, maybe a year out maximum, really depends on the buyer. But you'll notice we're pulling through all of these pre-tender notices or pipeline notices. As I mentioned, this has become a lot more popular since the Procurement Act, which is great, really, really helpful, and just allows you to once again get ahead of the competition and engage this buyer before the tender comes out and you're no longer allowed to do that. So in a similar way as our upcoming contract expiries, I would be able to view this list. I have filtered by signal score, so all of my relevant ones are right at the top again. And similarly, I'm able to click in, read a little bit more about these opportunities. And if I like the look of it, then I would be able to save this opportunity to my opportunities list. All right. Here we are, be able to come in and save this opportunity. So in this example, the pre-tender notice was published about 4 months ago, but the tender is not coming out until January. So I do still have about 2 months to engage this buyer and to do all of that pre-sales work that really moves the needle in your revenue and in your ability to win more bids within the public sector. All right. Okay. Popping back to our slides here, just a recap of what we just spoke about. So we looked at some concrete ways to build pipeline earlier by uncovering early buying signals in the market. We looked at contract expiries as a really great way to do that for any recurring or renewing tenders. We looked at strategic documents as a great early buying signal for greenfield opportunities or for products that might be newer to the market. And we looked at early stage notices as something that's changed a little bit since the Procurement Act went into effect earlier this year, and just another really helpful way for you to engage buyers ahead of tenders coming to market. Now, the examples I gave, I appreciate were quite generic. This demo account I'm using is quite generic. If you would like insights into how to do this for your company specifically, if there's any keywords you'd be curious about, do feel free to book some time in with me. And I'm happy to do a one-to-one session and to show you what that could look like with keywords that are relevant to yourself and to your product or to your offering. So please do book that time in. We can do 15 minutes and just make sure that the data that I'm showing you on that session is more relevant than the data today. All right. Getting into our final takeaway of the day. So we've looked at creating your go-to-government strategy. We've looked at building qualified pipeline. And now we're going to look at what happens when the tenders actually come out. So the tender has come out, and what does your team do? You're going to create a bid, no bid decision, and you're going to start drafting your responses. We know historically our customers have told us that takes an inordinate amount of time. You're spending hours, if not days, on this decision. Do I bid? Do I not bid? And then days or weeks on actually crafting the bid. So we've offered and implemented AI to help power this process and improve this process for our customers. So again, we're going to focus on 3 main ways that the system can help you draft and qualify bids quicker and better. The first one is going to be around that initial qualification. So is this actually worth your time? Typically, you'd have to read through all the tender documents to understand that. And we're going to use AI to make that process a little bit quicker and a little bit better informed. The next is around collaboration. So we know that typically, you might need someone from your technical team, someone from your legal team to collaborate on an answer, to review an answer. And our customers have told us in the past that they're all spread out around spreadsheets and Slack messages and Teams messages and their CRM, and it's all quite messy and time consuming. So we're going to look at how we can effectively organize your bid projects better. And then in the final instance, how you can actually start drafting your responses to these bids based on your content as a company and our procurement data from Stotles. So 3 parts, and we're going to dive into that right now. So again, navigating back to our home screen for this final section, we have saved opportunities within this session that have been upcoming contract expiries. We've saved documents as an opportunity, and we've saved early notices as an opportunity. So we've done all of that work, we've pre-engaged our buyers, and now the tender has finally come out or come to market. And we need to decide, do we want to bid on this or not? So I'm going to click into our opportunities, and I'm looking specifically at our opportunities that are in this bid, no bid stage. And that I just know that because the tenders come out and I actually have tender documents to look at to make this decision based on. So clicking into an opportunity here, this is your opportunity object. And this is where I am able to store all different types of information surrounding this opportunity. So from the moment I save it, when it's a upcoming contract expiry or a pre-tender notice, all the way through my engagement with this person to when it finally, the tender finally comes to market, I'm able to see all of those saved notices on this opportunity object, as well as the buyer profile. I could go and ask a question about the buyer, the current supplier, and contact details from any folks that I might have been engaging with. So we do also provide contact details within the platform for you to reach out to the folks that you want to reach out to. We also mentioned those strategic and planning documents. So what I've done is I brought all of those different types of data and information into one spot here on this opportunity page. So I have quick, easy access to their annual reports, to the folks that I'm reaching out to, and to the notice itself. I've done all that work. I've created this page, and now I want to understand if I should actually write a bid on this. Am I going to bring this to my bid team? Am I going to ask them to invest their time? And the way that Stotles is going to help you do that is through this bid, no bid report. So what I have done is I've uploaded my tender documents to the platform here. And within a few minutes, it has read through all of those documents and pulled out key pieces of information that I need to make this decision. So as a high level overview, it's telling me the scope of work, what they expect. It's telling me the budget or the value, the dates, contract durations, any location requirements. And I'm able to reference exactly where this has been pulled from in the tender documents. So any of us who are maybe a little bit wary of AI, you always have this source of truth. You can come through and you can read where this has come from. Now, scope of work, budget, all of that is really great and important information to understand. However, we know that everyone's different. All of you will likely have different matrices for making this decision, which is why this section is entirely customizable. So you can ask any questions you would like here. So some examples here that we found have been quite popular are around insurance or maybe certificates and accreditations, right? Does this buyer require a certain level of insurance from the supplier for this project? If so, and if I don't have that level of insurance, I'm not wasting my time on this. That is a red flag for me. It's going no further. So those red flag questions are what will be teased out of the tender documents for you, allowing your team to make this bid, no bid decision with good information, good data, and just a lot quicker. I'm not reading through 20, 50, 100 pages of tender documents to realize I'm not eligible. However, in this case, I'm assuming I am eligible. So I want to bid on this. I've read through all of my tender documents and I fit all of this criteria and I'm happy. So I'm going to move us along to our to bid stage. So I've made the decision. I'm investing my time and my bid team's time on this. If we pop back to our opportunity object, again, this is where everything lives. We've viewed our report, we've made our decision, and now we are actually going to start drafting our responses. So again, prior to the session, I had already uploaded my tender documents, and the system automatically extracted all of these questions from the tender documents. I was then able to assign different folks to answer them. A lot of them are assigned to me, and then different folks to review these submissions as well. So really easy to understand what I need to work on, and what I have yet to complete, and who's responsible for what part of the project. I'm going to take a look today maybe at my answers that are still in progress, the ones that I still need to work on, right? It's been assigned to me, it's in progress. So I'm going to click in to this question, and I'm going to start drafting a response. So here we have our question at the top. It's asking about AI-assisted functionalities within our platform. And I can ask it anything I would like. So over on the right, you'll see we have our AI assistant. And this is probably similar to any type of AI you've used in the past, where you're literally just asking it a question. So what I'm doing here is I'm asking the AI agent to search through my content library for examples of AI-assisted functionalities that we offer our customers. My content library can be uploaded into Stotles. You can see over here, we have content library. We do also have integrations into the likes of SharePoint and Google Drive. So wherever you're already storing all of this data, you can give us access to it, and the AI will be able to pull from that to create these responses. The types of data that would typically be found in your content library are going to be things like previous bids. So you've probably written similar things in the past, policy documents, security documents, case studies, or references or examples of previous work. That's typically what we're going to be pulling from. And we can see here how the AI agent has done exactly that. It's looked through my content library, and it's pulled out some examples of where we provide AI-assisted functionalities for our customers. So this is really, really helpful. This is giving me a starting place to answer this question, right? I'm not quite to the point of draft me a response. I want to storyboard this a little bit more, so I can understand where we're coming from. I can understand what Stotles offers in response to this question. But in addition to querying your content library, one of the great benefits of having Stotles as an all-in-one public sector function is I can also query Stotles data. So I can ask this a question about the buyer. So for example, I'm going to say, thanks, because it doesn't hurt to be polite. Can you tell me about the buyer's history with AI? So I just want to understand a little bit more, right? Is the buyer really pro AI? Are they not? They're obviously asking this question. What do they want the answer to be? So what the system is now doing is it's looking through all of Cornwall Council's previous procurement. So anything that they've tendered for in the past, that they've awarded, and all of Cornwall Council's documents. So annual reports, strategy documents, meeting minutes. Have they mentioned AI in a meeting? Has a board member spoken about it? All of that is being pulled through and fed into this AI agent to give me a really, really relevant answer. So here we can see, they've awarded contracts around AI before. They have a history of awarding contracts focusing on automation, integration, and digital transformation. So those are some really, really easy keywords for me to put into my response. Signaling a move towards digital and smart solutions. AI is playing an increasingly central role. That's wonderful. That's really, really helpful. I can understand now that it's obviously really important to them. It's playing an increasing central role. They've adopted similar systems in the past. Now I'm going to ask it to just draft me a response based on what Stotles can offer in terms of AI-assisted functionalities and Cornwall Council's history with AI. Here we go. It has drafted me a nice long response here. I'm going to insert it into my main page, and I can continue to edit this from here. So we're hoping that this gets you about 80% of the way. It helps you start drafting these bids. It helps you save time on research you might have previously been doing into the buyer, and pulls all the information into one spot to make it really easy for you to draft well-crafted, data-backed bid responses. All right. Appreciate that was also a little bit of a whirlwind, but thank you all for bearing with me. I'm aware that we are coming up on time here, and that was the final piece of the puzzle that I wanted to highlight for you all. So if I just pop back to our home screen, we saw how we can analyze the market. We saw how we can find upcoming contract expiries or other early buying signals to build pipeline. And we saw how we can use AI to qualify our bid opportunities and start drafting really well-informed bid responses. All right. Just to really wrap things up here, again, I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself, but we have just looked at 3 of the main parts of Stotles here. And hopefully you can all, appreciate that what we've described, the system that we've just looked at, from sizing your market, looking at market insights, to building pipeline, to winning bids, has historically been a really disjointed process. A lot of our customers will have had a really high tech debt previously, where they're using lots of different tools to manage these processes. So that's why we built Stotles as a one-stop shop and end-to-end platform for public sector commercial teams. Okay, we are just about time here. I am very happy to go through a few questions. If anybody does need to drop off, feel free, and we can send the recording over to everybody. But I am going to stay on for a few more minutes and happy to go into those questions. So popping to this next page here. First question around, is it true that most government contracts are pre-decided, made to favor some specific organizations? I would say that there is an understanding that oftentimes certain suppliers have been involved in the writing of a tender. For yourselves, that is an ideal state, right? If you have that great relationship with the buyer and they know that they want a system exactly like yours or a product exactly like yours, that's great. But I think that's a really good example of why it's so important to engage buyers early and not just wait for tenders to come out, because you don't know when this is the case. If a different competitor or a different supplier has been talking to a buyer, that's not uncommon. So that is really why we do encourage you to use those early buying signals and engage buyers early, so that you can get in there and either ensure that another incumbent isn't really entrenched and, whispering in the ear of the buyer, or to ensure that you are the one that is influencing the buyer in your direction. The recording, absolutely, we will definitely send the recording along. A few more questions here. So the free pilot question, we do have a free version of our platform, absolutely. We can include that link in the follow-up email and really encourage you to sign up. We do also have a offer for everyone who attended today. So that is going to be 10% off any package that includes a Bid Studio license that's purchased by the end of this year. So if you'd like to chat about that, please do feel free to reach out as well. Lots of questions here. I'm going to continue to answer a few. As I said, feel free to drop off. If there's any that I don't get to, we will send across answers to everyone after the fact as well. I see one here, latest question. Do you have any data on G Cloud? Absolutely. So G Cloud is G Cloud is one of the largest tech-focused frameworks in the UK. G Cloud 14 is expiring next year. G Cloud 15 has just opened up for applications. We do have a lot of data on that within our platform. We have also written a report on the switch from G Cloud 14 to G Cloud 15. Again, I will send that out. I think it might have just been posted in the chat here as well. Yeah, there we go. So we've just posted that in the chat. I would very much recommend reading that report if you're at all interested in G Cloud. Is this all part of freemium? So everything I've shown you today is not part of freemium. We wish, but we can't give everything away. So everything I've shown you today is included in one of our paid packages. We do have different levels really built to fit all different types of customers. So as I mentioned at the beginning, anyone from, a one-person public sector team all the way up to enterprise levels where they have multiple teams working on different verticals. we only focus on 3 target accounts per AE. Is that something we can store in Stotles? Absolutely. So when building out those target account lists, it's all meant to be really, really flexible and customizable. So 100% each AE would be able to have an account, and they would be able to customize their views based on their 3 target accounts. So 100%, it's built to be really flexible and customizable for you in that way. Utilities contracts. Do we have the same functionality and data? I will need to check on that. So there's obviously a lot of platforms out there that might do similar things. I'm not 100% sure where utilities contracts data comes from, so I will need to check on that. But as I said, we can respond to these answers over email as well. We will definitely send out all responses to you all. Yep, the slides will also be available after the webinar, so we will send those over. Geographies that the platform focuses on. So we are UK and Ireland focused only. We don't have any European procurement data. We do have UK and we do have Ireland, and you can filter by geography as well if you focus on a certain patch. But at the minute, UK and Ireland only. Can a pre-tender be awarded? So pre-tender notices are essentially just heads up from buyers, right? That they might be coming to tender. They're not always 100%. Sometimes buyers might release a pre-tender notice and then actually fail to release a tender after the fact. And that could just be because their plans change, their budgets change, whatever else might happen. So while there are really great indications of tenders coming to market, again, we would always encourage you to get in touch with the buyer if you see a pre-tender notice that looks relevant, to build that relationship. And then you'll obviously be notified from the buyer if there's any changes to the tender coming out. Sometimes they're delayed, sometimes they don't come out at all. That just happens, unfortunately. All right. So final couple questions here. I think I've done my best to answer all of them. So you need to register yourselves on the platform. Exactly. So we will send out a link in this follow-up email with this webinar recording and these slides. We'll send out a link to Stotles to our website. We do have a freemium version, so I would definitely suggest you sign up for the freemium version to start with. But if you do want to have a quick chat about any of our paid versions as well, please do reach out. My booking link is in the chat here, and we'll also include that in the follow-up email. You're welcome to reach out to me, and I can walk you through all of the options for paid versions as well. All right. Again, I think I've answered everything. If I haven't, please do reach out. I do apologize. We will follow up with these slides, with the recordings, and with links to my booking link and Stotles platform as well. But thank you all for joining. Thank you for staying on for a few extra minutes. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. And happy Thursday. Have a good morning. And hopefully we'll speak soon or see you again on another webinar.